Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for those people who have their natal Pluto in Scorpio. I recently did a video about people who have Neptune in Capricorn and how they were the Millennials, or I guess that's what Generation Y is. And this is going to dovetail with that because the years involved are in that same group, but they are they're slightly different. So Neptune in Capricorn was 1984 to 2000. Pluto in Scorpio was 1983 to 1996. So you can see that a few years at the end will be Pluto in Sagittarius. And I will do future videos on different Pluto generations, including Pluto and Sagittarius. So if you're on the tail, well, that wouldn't involve anybody who's listening to this, I would think. So we have to see that there is going to be correlation between these two time frames, and that they are pretty much one and the same. And I was describing the world, at least from the North American perspective. I should just say United States, because that's where I'm from. And I was in my late teens and early 20s in the 80s time frame. Yeah, no, and going into the 2006. I was, a little bit over 30, having my first Saturn return, I'm sure, when this was going on. So I was very much aware of life in those days. And that's what I really want to describe, because this is the world that they came into. And one of the very big themes that I see was that money was a big part of this. From the this started in 1983 when there was a recession in the United States, and then there was the Wall Street boom, some people would call it. Some people would say it was manipulated, and that it really wasn't as great as it was made out to be, and that credit became that's a very interesting thing. Credit became encouraged uh, during the latter part of the 80s, whereas savings was encouraged earlier on. And in the 70s, I had a passbook when I was a kid, and I don't think I'm imagining this, but I think I had 5% interest. And then I remember in the 80s, it was like they were going, oh, wow, 2% interest for CDs. Wow, stop the presses. And they don't even have that now. It's probably like 1%, 0.5%. And I'm not even an economic person, so I might sound materialistic, but I'm not really geared towards that. I'm just telling you that the young people, um, to me, they're young because now they are in their 30s at best, and I still think of that as young, have had to deal with this issue of debt in a big way, because it was encouraged when their parents had them to, buy things on credit, go into debt. Then, of course, student loans became a thing, and then they have had to deal with that. And the eighth house, which Pluto rules, is about debts, other people's money, other sources of money, versus what you can do for yourself. So this can be a very big issue. And right now, because in the United States, the issue of forgiving student loans is something that is being bandied about, and it has already been done for select people. And now we're talking about this issue of I don't know, universal basic income. There are all these kinds of things which would involve other people giving money to all people of a society. This is something that can be, these are people who are on the forefront of that because they are now in their 20s and 30s, and they are in the world in careers, jobs or careers. So that kind of thing is very front and center. So Pluto is a regenerative force, so it's going to be something that transforms people. Of course, you could say that some people refuse to transform because they want to stay the same, and that's about being in the comfort zone. And this kind of thing is tricky because this is something that we have to do in order to grow. If we're stagnant, we're not going to transform. We're going to stay the same, and it may feel safe, but it's not really. So this is the generation that knows this better than anyone else. And this is also a generation that has highly perceptive abilities. Pluto is one of the rulers of Scorpio. And in that eighth house, it's all about shadow work. It's all about what lies beneath. And Pluto and Scorpio people are not afraid to look under that rock and see all those icky things that are crawling around under there. So, true crime, all these things may be really fascinating to these people because it's just what, and I'm talking about as a generation, you may enjoy the darker side. So this may even come up as the entertainment that you like, which I would, stay the hell away from probably. But because I have Neptune in Scorpio. And Pluto in Scorpio is there's really about purging the darkness, maybe through the darkness. And being and kind of being on the forefront of all of the changes that are occurring in this world at this particular time. And we're thinking about death as a big theme in many different ways. And one of the sites that I was looking at is called LibraRising.com. Maybe that's the person who wrote this is a Libra rising. And mentioning the Great Reset, which is a term that has been used recently to describe what is happening right now. And that goes along with exactly what I'm talking about, the theme of transformation or rebirth, if you will. So those of you who are in this generation, you're very good at perceiving other people at the deepest level, but you probably will not enjoy doing things in the traditional way when it comes to because again, with Neptune and Capricorn, the traditional way is infused with a lot of woo-woo. And so everything is getting that Plutonian treatment. All of these different pillars of society. And one of them is going to be the medical industry. I noticed I said industry. Was that a Freudian slip? I meant profession. That, you will not be satisfied with any kind of medical treatment that does not involve actual healing. So the idea of throwing pills at people, that, it just maintains a certain surface status, but doesn't really deal with the root cause. You're really interested in the root cause of things. And same thing with therapy. That may not cut it. I see so many people and um, they really want to understand themselves psychologically, but they don't want to go down the traditional route because they might have tried it and they feel it didn't even scratch the surface. And so you're very penetrative, and you want to get to the heart of the matter, whatever that is. And this is why I think the generation of 20 somethings, 30 somethings are really in the forefront of a lot of the truther movement as it connects to the Great Awakening. As some people would call it conspiracy theories, I would call it conspiracy realities. Or I call myself a conspiracy realist. And the idea of the news, getting to the truth of the news, cutting through all of the lies. And there are a lot of younger citizen journalists and commentators. My partner, who is older than I am, is in his late 60s, and he listens to these guys, and they're probably in this generation, this Pluto and Scorpio, you know, um, in their early to mid 30s. The more established ones sometimes, or even in their 20s, and they really have a lot of insights into what's happening. Actually, even with the occult, I have been blown away by people half my age who know all this stuff. It's almost like they were born with this knowledge of sacred geometry, galactic information, the whole 9 yards. And it's like they talk about it like it's nothing. And so your generation is not easily amused. Um, you know, this is about heavy stuff, and therefore, and you might have come through, and you did come through an era where there was a lot going on. I mean, think of, and I'm talking about United States again. This was a very big time of gang warfare in the United States. So in some communities in the United States, there were a lot of deaths. Of course, the AIDS epidemic and sex and Scorpio, that goes together. Pluto and Scorpio, death, sex equaling death. Okay. And by the way, this is a pre-internet era, but of course, we know that if you were born in the 90s, you still were exposed to computers and the internet while you were growing up in school. And even I was, and I'm way older than that. So, not in school too much, but when I was older. So we all have these interactions with things, but they're coming at different times. The reason I say that is because Pluto and Scorpio, when it comes to sex, there can be this taking it very seriously, compared to prior generations, and even future generations. Because of the connection between Pluto and Scorpio to begin with, and its connection to sex. But at the same time, it's not inconceivable that some people with this placement may actually feel drawn to pursue sex as a healing modality, either for themselves or professionally as a service to others. So it's not, that they wouldn't be involved with that. So you are the ultimate healer. And I have to say that not every one of the same generation is on the same wavelength. So I don't want to give that type of misunderstanding. I actually think that the hijacking that is done with each generation comes about when they take certain areas and they distort it. I'm talking about those who are trying to control things, and they distort it, and it makes people kind of act in a different way. Almost like, to me, maybe it's the sign that opposes the Pluto placement. So in this case, it would be a focus on the material versus the spiritual, with Taurus being the opposite sign of Scorpio. So it's an inversion, which is something that those who are trying to control like to do. They do things backwards, or they take it and they turn it upside down so that it creates that polarity, and the person is kind of like manipulated to do the exact opposite of what they were born to do, what they came here to do. And so these are the people who will be leading the way when it comes to our new earth, if you will, because the regeneration is your specialty. And the reason this is key is that some generations are not necessarily used to change, or that they want change, and you know that death is inevitable. And so you may be able to tolerate the death of others who have been targeted. And, death, one of the main reasons for creating death is to create trauma when people are witnessing the death of other people, especially people that they are close to. But Pluto and Scorpio people were born to make peace with death and to understand it. And so, you know, these are the people that are going to be some of the wayshowers in the coming years. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.